Ooh, here we go. Breaking news. Bam, breaking. Here we go. Of course, when I say I'm not doing a hot sheet on a Friday, we get breaking news. $418 million settlement from NAR. I need to send out this link. Let me know as you're jumping in who you are, what your reaction is to. Maybe, Bobby, can we put the link to the BAM article?
Yes, we can.
For those that don't know, put that in the comments. Let's pin that maybe. I'm going to go... I'm going to get this link out on my social here. Breaking news. Jump into the comments. I don't know if anyone has read the NAR article. Going live now, just sending this link out. Okay. Let's see. What do we got here, Bobby? I can't see if we've got people coming on. Okay, so questions you have from the email. I have one big question. I'll read the email for those that are coming in that haven't read it yet. But what questions do you have from the NAR email? Okay. Yes, Jay, they are requiring buyer agreements now. That is one of the items in the email, which I'm going to go through here.
Byron, we actually have a special guest in the back room if you're ready for him.
Yeah, let's bring it. This is Jason Haber. Awesome. Hey, Jason.
How we doing?
Were you talking to CNBC, New York Times? Who are you talking to?
I make the rounds.
Good.
I've lost track.
All right. I just got done recording Knowledge Brokers podcast. That's going to be up later today. If you want mine and Tom Toole's full reaction, I mean, we were reacting to the NAR email when it came out in the middle of that podcast, breaking it down. NAR. So here's the chain of events today. New York Times breaks the story. The association doesn't break it. National Association of Realtors doesn't break it to their members. New York Times breaks it. Next, thanks to Jason being on the trigger, BAM breaks it before Inman and the rest. We had it out first, Jason. Can you believe that? BAM article goes out.
I don't know how that happened, but BAM is on top of it. I'll just say that.
So BAM gets it out. The rest of the industry media gets it out. And then Inman sends sends an email. I'll give NAR. NAR sends an email at 10:31 a.m. I'll give NAR credit. The email was pretty thorough.
Yep.
Okay. So there's some good stuff in here that clears up some questions. There are questions that are not cleared up. But Jason, your reaction here to the news, the $418 million settlement that NAR has now agreed to on the main lawsuit, the copycats, and it sounds like potential future lawsuits.
Well, listen, closure is a good thing. It's obviously it's a staggering amount of money paid out over 4 years. What I find really interesting is, and I don't know if you've talked about this yet, it's not just the settlement. It's what, as an industry going forward, the non-requirement of entering into an MLS to get compensation. So agents will have the choice, not the requirement, about entering data or joining their local MLS. That's entirely different from how we've done business. And so that's going to create innovation. To me, that's a game changer for the industry, just as important as the $418 million, because you'll see you have this very large expense, and at the same time, you may see a pretty steep drop in membership. And you put those two things together, it's not just one, it's both. And that's really interesting to me.
Well, you mentioned the $418 million being a staggering amount, but NAR's total revenue in 2022, the most recent year that we have tax documentation on because they're a nonprofit, their revenue was $328+ million. So you're like,
yeah, but $250 million is expenses. If you look at that 994,
That's what I'm going to get to.
Yeah.
They had significant expenses. They only had net income on the 308 or 328 million of 22 million. So they have a habit,
right?
They have a habit of squandering money. Hava's marketing group got, 45 million. They have over 50 million in these marketing. They have a Hulu TV show now. They're really good at spending money. So they're going to pay this 418 million out over 4 years. By the way, that means if you're staying in NAR, that's an assessment over 4 years coming down for you. To Jason's point, people are going to be leaving NAR. So they're going to assess the other members because they haven't saved money. $22 million in net income for year 2022. They could have had a lot more money. They, instead of going and doing 4 seasons on Hulu with a show that I promise you nobody's watching, and that's very expensive placement. You want to go start your own show and call up Hulu and ask them how much it's gonna be to put your show on there. It's going to be very expensive, but NAR has squandered your money. So the 418 million, that'll come down as assessment to members, not in the NAR email. That's my hunch. Okay, now the rule that you mentioned where MLSs can no longer show compensation, can't show them. So, historically, you're an agent, you'd be able to see, okay, what's the offer of compensation? Won't be allowed to take place on the MLS, won't have a place for it on your MLS moving forward. That change takes effect on July 2024.
Right.
So for all the brokerage leaders and for all the NAR leaders who have been out there saying the appeals are going to take years, this is years down the line for changes to be coming. Nope. The changes happen July 2024. They're at your doorstep. The spring market won't even be over and the changes will be in effect. The smart leaders are going to make changes ahead of time because we're talking about a couple of months. If your brokerage hasn't already sent something out to you, that's a red flag. Okay. NAR waited for New York Times to report it before they sent out an email. That's a red flag to me. So these changes are happening July 2024. What other changes should we expect coming by midsummer?
So are you, so they've said that dues will stay, they won't change dues for 2024.
They have said dues will not change in 2024. Right. That's because they've already established it. They can't go back on it. And so dues, I bet my life dues change in 2025. Not only do they change and go up, but an assessment is on top of that. That's a prediction. Nobody's hearing that. That's my prediction, my personal belief. I want to be clear on that.
Well, they've just had an assessment for the last 2 years. They had a marketing assessment where I think it was $45 or $50 per member. And that paid for the latest campaign, which was come to about 120 million or so. So, but you made an interesting point earlier that their net income for the year with all their expenses is around a little over 100 million, maybe a little under 100 million. That money will now have to be used to pay the settlement amount because they're paying it over 4 years. So it's going to be what, $105 million a year or so. So that seems like that's all their money.
It's all their money. And obviously Jason Haber, who along with Mauricio Umansky has started AREA, American Real Estate Association, to give another offering outside of NAR. But being non-biased here as much as you can, Jason, I can give my commentary on this. What could NAR do to win back members? I mean, if NAR came out with a blueprint in the next couple of months, the next 30 days that said, hey, not only are we, freezing any hiring, but we're reducing salaries across the board by 50, 60% to really make it. We're stopping all these marketing no more commercials, no more Hulu TV shows that no consumers watch, no more excessive spending so that the assessment can be as little as possible. What plan could they put forward where you would say, hey, we're going to support NAR as opposed to going and starting our own thing? Or are you dead set on offering another association to real estate agents?
No, I mean, we're offering another association, American Real Estate Association, AmericanREA.org, for anyone who wants to check it out and sign up there. It's free. We're not anti-NAR. We wish them the best. We think that there's room in the ecosystem for multiple trade associations. In every other industry, there are multiple trade associations, national trade associations. So we hope that they can thrive. If I were to give free advice, I would say this. I would say stay ahead of, stop leading from behind, put out clear guidance, communicate clearly to the membership. How do you talk to your clients about this? Like, that email should go out by 4:00 today. Here are the 5 things you need to say to your clients this weekend about the news that they're going to be reading. This is a national news story. It's on the front page of the CNN.com. It's on the homepage of NYT.com. It's on the homepage of Wall Street Journal and Washington Post. National story. Educate your clients. Here's what you should say.
Jason, I mean, you just said CNN. CNN's headline reads, the 6% commission on buying and selling homes is dead after Realtors Association agreed to.
I just got off the phone with that reporter. I told her it's actually, I don't believe that's the right headline, but.
And they did it in the New York. It was in the first paragraph of the New York Times.
Yeah.
Listen, 6% commission, by the way, in most markets, I think there's going to be a lot of agents in the comments saying right now, like, wait a minute. That's
not my 6.
That's been dead, CNN. This is a stupid piece of journalism across the board by the national headlines by saying that this is what the lawsuit is about it's not what it's about. I mean, what did you say to that reporter?
No, I explained it. It's not, the lawsuit wasn't about 6%. And that was not the issue. The truth is, it's up to a seller a seller could decide on 10% if they wanted to. It's like, this is not the end of 6%. It's the end of an era where how we had the data worked out and how compensation was split between the buyer and the seller broker and how we did that and how we had that conversation. But you cannot flatly say that the era of 6% is over. That wasn't even at the heart of the lawsuit. So in fact, if you say that a certain commission is over, then you're actually setting commissions, which is the opposite point of the freaking lawsuits in the first place.
Right. So CNN is anyways.
I'm hoping to get that changed. I'll see, but it's wrong. It's wrong.
Written agreements. Okay, so if you're an MLS participant acting for buyer, representing a buyer, written agreements for MLS participants acting for buyers. So. While NAR has been advocating for use of written agreement for years, this is directly from NAR. In this settlement, we have agreed to require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into written representation agreements with their buyers. They've agreed to that in this proposed settlement. This change also goes into effect mid-July 2024. A lot of agents are going to be vulnerable on this one.
Yeah. And that's where they have to come in and say, okay, we're doing a workshop at 2:00, at 4:00. Like, this is where education comes in and not letting everyone just sort of figure it out. And that's what leadership is about. And so I hope that they can do that, because a lot of agents are no longer going to be agents. And maybe that's not a bad thing. But I think a lot of agents will be leaving the industry.
All right, so Kim, let's go back to Kim's comment there. She wants to go back to what Jason was suggesting to share with our clients. Hard to put something out while I'm still wrapping my brain around what is happening. Kim, one of the things that I would put out to clients, particularly sellers right now, is that between now and July, if you have a home on the market, you have an agreement in place, there is nothing in this proposed settlement, which is not finalized, that changes the way that we're operating. If that seller feels like they want to discuss a change and have a renegotiation, open up the channels of that renegotiation. Right now, Kim, any agent needs to be armed with the line that everything in this business is negotiable. You should already have the services listed out that you're providing and be really open to having conversations. Personalization and customization per the client, having different offerings per the client's needs are going to be on the up for the winners. I mean, we can do a winner-loser list. I think big brokerages are going to be leaning into, some of them are going to be leaning into the loser category here. NAR certainly leaning into the loser category. You already see Zillow stock down today. Spruce Point Capital shorted Zillow stock a couple of weeks ago, and this is a big hit to their business model. You look at the winners category. I saw a comment earlier saying, hey, real estate attorneys, which have had their fees compressed for years because they were a non-factor, they could be in the winner category. Homes.com certainly now in the winner category. Top 5% of agents in the full-time agents, professionals that have a real brand presence in their market, they're in the winner category. I think managing brokers, managers of offices, you're probably going to see 1 out of 4 get laid off by the end of the year. Okay, I think they're sitting in the loser category. These brokerages are going to require managers to manage more than 50 or 75 heads. When I talked to Sirhan's director of sales, he's like, I manage over 300 people. Okay, you're going to have cream rise to the top in all instances. If you just got a manager that's waiting for retirement and is collecting a fee by recruiting a couple agents a month and holding firm on setting a commission for the broker, those managers are going away.
Yep.
And the ones that can really direct sales, manage 300 to 400 people at a time, they're going to be on the up. They're going to be in the winning category.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, not everyone's going to make it through this, but I think there's also, like, look at the upside here. I think there's a chance for agents to really just crush it if they know what they're doing in this environment. We've never had this before, right? Where they're like, we're playing a game and in the middle of the game, the rules change. It's like if you're like in the NFL in mid-season, now you can't touch the quarterback. And so now receivers are more valuable than the running backs. Be a receiver, don't be a running back. Like, there are ways for agents to thrive right now, for those who can master this. And so for them, I think it's exciting. And I just don't know how many of them there are going to be that are willing to sort of embrace this. I get it. It's tough. Someone made a great comment, like, I'm just getting my head around it. And, it's a little early to talk to a client. Okay, maybe, but get your head around it. Get your head around it fast and start talking.
One thing you saw in the New York Times piece, I haven't clicked the CNN piece because the headline's enough for me to know they just probably followed suit on New York Times. But New York Times mentions in there the big scare tactic that agents have been told for 20 plus years is, Expedia and Kayak. When these things, came out, it really dramatically changed the landscape for travel agents. Okay, well, take a step back and think about what the New York Times is saying there. They're saying when these portals came online, it really changed. The portals have existed in real estate for 20 years.
Yeah.
The consumer overwhelmingly has chosen the services that an agent provides because it's a lot of work to do these deals. And so they want somebody doing that work. Now, when you dig in to that industry, when I talk about those top agents, you'd be surprised what percentage of travel agents still exist. It's 60 to 70% from the time frame of before Expedia and Kayak came out. Now, the brick and mortars don't exist. So you may be thinking, oh, Real or an EXP model or a cloud-based, one of those. I'm not saying that they're going to win in this environment. I'm just saying that they're kind of set up for that mentality of less brick and mortar. I definitely think offices holding a lot of brick and mortar, a lot of expense on payroll is going to have some vulnerabilities here. But when you look at how the travel agency adapted, I actually think instead of using that as a scare tactic, that should come as there's significant opportunity here. Okay. Who's going to be another loser, Jason? We know that agents dealing significantly in lower price points are going to be vulnerable. Unfortunately, this puts vulnerabilities on those buyers as well.
I think that's the biggest loser. And I just want to point out, that's my biggest concern here, because if I go in without an agent, I'm first-time buyer, first-time purchase, and the seller has representation, I could get my clock cleaned because I don't have someone watching my back. And I may make mistakes that I wouldn't have made if I had an agent, but I was like, well, I want to save on the commission. I'm not going to pay out of pocket, or I can't afford to pay out of pocket. I've saved up everything for the down payment and the transactional costs. So is that good for that buyer? I think it's terrible for that buyer. And I think you're going to see stories about that. People who are getting shelled in the process. Oh, I didn't know I could ask for this. I didn't know I could have this inspection clause. I didn't know about that. I mean, there are so many things that could go wrong where a valuable, trusted advisor can help you with, I think there's going to be damage there. And I think that's
I see Laura Monroe from Inman, one of the most well-known
Laura.
faces at Inman, in the comments. Laura, if you want to drop your email, or if you want to email bobby@nowbam.com, you want to jump on the stream with us, we'll do the first ever BAM Inman collab.
Wow. Worlds colliding. I've had so many Inman reporters on today. I've spoken to today.
I'll offer out the collab if Laura wants to jump on. I see a comment here from Edgar C. Mandatory buyer reps will protect us from buyers hopping around different agents. It'll also open up new I mean, one of the things that these articles have gotten right, it will open up new models that some brokers choose to use at their free will, that kind of entice hopping around. Okay, there's going to be brokers out there and agents that put out this education of, you could basically come direct to me and offering what their model is.
Yeah.
And so now if you decide to use buyer representations through your MLS, which is now a requirement through MLSs, it's going to protect you if you've done in that case where you've done a buyer representation form with a buyer and you have services that they, are desiring and that you're holding up and all of that. Buyers will have a very hard time accessing valuable services, not in the cases. I'll just push back here on Cam a little bit. Not in the cases where they've done their homework and their research and they're working with an agent that's offering a variety of services. This personalization and customization in the industry is going to be paramount. Thinking about clients as clients for life as opposed to past transactions is going to be critical to this. You're going to have to be an expert in a few different categories. If that's the home renovation side of things, if that's the moving and staging side of things, you're going to have to do more than the door opening and listing on the MLS side of things. And I think there's a lot of agents in the comments right now that are like, cool, that's great for me. I've got this. I'm going to be really thriving in this environment. And so the valuable services is going to become the variable, Cam. What are the valuable resources? What are the valuable services that you're providing? Investing in a plethora of services that real estate agents haven't traditionally over the years provided is going to be really important. The good news is you've got a lot of connections in your community. You already have a lot of awareness in your community because you've been building it up for years. Now really strengthening those connections and elevating what you can offer to buyers and sellers alike is going to be the critical separator for the agents that thrive. People are going to, Jason, absolutely crush it in this new landscape, while others, in particular, people who put in maybe 10 to 15 hours, part-time, are going to find a little bit of a struggle in this environment.
Yeah. It's funny. I was out with a buyer after I left Dunkin' Donuts. I met this buyer literally as the story's breaking. And she said to me, "Oh, does this mean now we can negotiate your fee?" I said, "Listen, we could always negotiate my fee. What after a year and a half of looking and all we've been through, what do you think I'm worth?" And she said, "A lot more than you're going to get paid for this sale anyway." So that's what you want, right? Like connective tissue to the client, like by serving them in whatever their needs are. This is someone who has a handicap issue, and we had some specifics with the search. That's why it's taken so long. But when you go above and beyond, and that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to work hard, or some will already do it anyway. But for those who can't do that extra step, I wouldn't even bother renewing your license.
The on hard work is never going to go away. It's only going to go up.
Yes,
that's an opportunity for those that are willing to embrace
100%.
it. Of course, I'm Byron Lazine. I'm speaking with Jason Haber, who, along with Mauricio Umansky, launched AREA, American Real Estate Association, as an alternative option to NAR. NAR is going to be under the microscope now more than ever. What are they going to do to move forward? And obviously, they put a plan together here with this $418 million settlement. One question not answered in the NAR email, Jason, is now it's clear that, okay, there's not going to be a compensation offer on the MLS. You know, if you're going to be using the MLS, you're going to have to go into these buyer representation forms. Okay. NAR is paying the settlement. It's going to be approximately over 4 years. This will not change 2024 dues. Okay. Those things are clear. What's not clear is most of these MLSs are owned by local boards. Okay. Yes. To be a member of a local board in many markets, you have a tie-in agreement that means you must be a member of NAR. So, okay, you don't have to use MLS anymore because compensation model's out of that. Okay, but MLS is still a very useful tool. Let's be real here. MLS is very useful to disseminate properties and listings and collect other information that's valuable for buyers. It's a great resource for many agents. So if you want that resource, you want that tool, are you still going to be tied in? They don't address this in the NAR email that I've seen. Are you still going to be tied into your local board because your board, that local board might own that? And then are you still going to be tied in from local board to a requirement as a member of NAR? Are you hearing anything on that?
So I hear that's got to do with the Department of Justice, actually. So the short answer is no. The longer answer, which is interesting, is the fact that you don't have to join the MLS if you don't want. There are some people, I know agents who don't even use their MLS. I'm not recommending you use, one of the aggregators to do your searching or your business, but I know folks who do that, but they do it because they don't like the UX in their local MLS. Very dated. I hear 1998. They don't like the UX. It's so bad they don't share it with their client, like the listing reports that come from. Not all MLSs. Some are better than others, but some are really poor. And I have seen very specific examples of them. My MLS in South Florida, I would never share with the client, by the way, full disclosure, because I think I'm in New York today, but when I'm in South Florida and working there, I would never share the presentation to a client because I think it's so poor. So there are agents who will say, you know what? I don't need it. And you know what they're going to do? They're not going to join the local MLS, and they're not going to join NAR, and they're not going to have a penalty. Remember, right now, if you don't join the MLS and you don't join NAR, your broker has to pay a penalty for that. I presume that's going away if they're saying you don't have to join the MLS anymore.
Yeah, they didn't make that clear. Certainly, if it was clear that there wasn't a tie-in agreement, you'd have a lot of people bailing. Interesting too, mid-July, these rules go into effect. I think there's a lot of memberships coming up on May 31st. Zillow stock down 11.15% here on today's news, along with many.
I think that's, by the way, why do you think it's down that much? I mean, it's a staggering amount to be down. I actually would take the other end of that trade, that they may actually be one of the long-term winners in this.
Long-term winner is the key, but they could have a really interesting next 12 to 24 months ahead of them because the majority of their revenue is tied to is tied to broker compensation. So do I agree with you? Long-term Zillow still comes out on top. Yeah, because when buyers right now use the phrase, they talk about Zillowing it. Okay. So it has become a significant brand. Now homes.com in the short term might make it hard on Zillow and might have something to say about that long-term battle. I think in the instant category of winners, homes.com becomes interesting.
What happens if, let me ask you this question. Imagine if, I'm not saying this is going to happen, those websites actually become the de facto MLSs, as maybe agents start using them more because they like the UX.
It could happen, but I mean, here's the deal, right? Right now, you go MLS and you get on all of those websites. If Zillow's a de facto website, they're not going to want their information to go.
That's right. No, they're an aggregator. They're not a distributor. That's right.
Right. So you still need something to get, you do some work in Manhattan, right?
Yeah, well, most of my business is Manhattan.
So Manhattan, you don't have an MLS, but you do have an aggregator that gets you onto all, gets you onto Element, gets you onto Compass, gets you onto all the sites, as well as Street Easy or whatever, right?
That's right. Well, we have to do Street Easy manually, actually. So we double enter into our system, which then aggregates to something called the RLS, which the firms share, and the data goes out. And then we double enter. Like I enter manually already into what you would be Zillow for everyone else is Street Easy in New York. So I'm used to double entry. All of us here in New York are used to double entry.
Yeah, okay, double entry. Put that comment back up there, Brian. Oh, I didn't get that one. What's your take on local board just adjusting the rules and not allow the listing agent to also represent the buyer side? Well, you have that rule. Dual agency is illegal in some markets. Essentially, what you're referring to there. Listen, I think the local boards right now are still taking their P's and Q's from NAR, which it's interesting, why they would do that, because the ones that own these MLSs might have more power at this moment in your market than NAR.
Yes, I think that's true. And I think they're going to be the power structure will change. I think they're going to question that relationship, and what drives that relationship forward, I think will change.
Redfin stock's down. I mean, all the real estate stocks are down, but the biggest one that I see is the Zillow stock at over 10%, because I do think that they, with this now coming in and these rules taking effect on mid-July 2024, they have a short run here to adjust. They're a big cruise ship, and it's hard for them to change course.
I guess the question though is, like, because so much of the revenue comes from the Premier Agent program, right?
And they have every 90 days they have to answer to the market, Jason, and that's why in the short term you're seeing the stock go down, because if they have one quarter where revenue significantly declines, that's a huge impact to the stock.
The question though is, are agents going to say, well, I'm not going to do Premier Agent anymore because buyer brokerage is going away, or I'll have to negotiate my fee? Or could I say, wow, now I really want to do Premier Agent because the lesser agents won't be doing it, and I'll be able to take more of the market, and I'm not afraid to have that conversation and win the client. And for me, I'm gonna earn more money because of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the good agents want the opportunity to speak with buyers. When we're talking about that top 5-10% of agents who have curated their services above and beyond what the competition does and are confident in their buyer presentation, are going to be going after buyer leads across the board because they're going to have value to propose and pitch. But when we're talking about Zillow, I think they may actually flip. They may flip on the flex model here, which is based off of a percentage of off of the closing, off of the commission, 40% now, and they may flip back to market-based pricing. That might be a short-term gap that they try to fill to just get those revenue dollars up front and say, agents, brokers, community, you figure out, like, I'm going to charge you top fee here.
Yeah.
If you want these leads, we're going to get away from the model that we've been shifting towards. You may see that shift on a dime for Zillow, so they can try to get out ahead of a bad quarter.
And that's why Homes.com, someone just reported to us that it's up 6%.
There you go. Well, CoStar would be the company, right? Yeah. CoStar would be the yeah, I mean, because CoStar, this has no impact on CoStar's core business, obviously being commercial. CoStar obviously here up 5.48%.
We have the full stock ticker being updated now, gentlemen.
All right, good. There you go. You've got a $37.83 billion market cap, where Zillow is less than a third of that. CoStar is in the winner category, in a great position to do some things here. Jason, you've oftentimes gotten some commentary from people inside the doors at NAR. Are we expecting layoffs? Are we, are they lighting the DC headquarters on fire, the Chicago headquarters? What is happening inside the walls at NAR today? What are you hearing?
So nervousness. I haven't spoken to anyone in a few hours, but I heard this morning there was very edge. Everyone was nervous. Obviously, the big worry is layoffs to offset, operating expenses. And, if they're not, like, if they're going to close down certain programs to sort of reduce overhead, people are worried. And I get that. And you feel for people who are just trying to do an honest day's work and are caught in the crossfire here.
If we have a Wesley Cromble, you can put Wesley's comment up here. If we have a lender on right now, a very experienced lender, email bobby@nowbam.com when we can get you on the stream here. What does this do for lender financing? I hear lenders already saying that they can't get QM loans done, basically, if the seller compensates buyer commission through closing credits. I don't know about that, though, because I hear differently that, okay, you can have closing, but you couldn't have your other closing credits that you would maybe historically have as a buyer. You can't have like endless closing credits, right? There's a certain cap on closing credits. I'd rather have a lender explain it than me, but there's a certain cap on closing credits. I guess what Wesley's hearing is, hey, those closing credits can't go towards this, compensation, where I guess I've heard differently that you could,
I have too,
theoretically put closing credits towards it because you can decide where those go, but you're not going to be able to have other closing credits. If you do, there's going to be a cap on that. So interesting comment there. Now, any chance, does this change?
We may have a lender coming on shortly.
All right, cool.
Sweet.
We have a lot of comments in here, leaving NAR. Obviously, you can go check out what Jason and Mauricio have started. We'll put the link in down below. What is the link, by the way? Just shout it out.
AmericanREA.org.
AmericanREA.org. You can go check that out. You can get into their newsletter for free and get the updates that are happening there. But there's been some thought that maybe NAR, in a Hail Mary service to their members, may get Fannie and Freddie to agree that buyer compensation could be financed.
Right.
Any chance you think that happens?
Yes. I mean, I think that's the move.
And then would that change the hearts of agents on how they feel about NAR? Okay, NAR makes that happen. Do people say, okay, listen, because you and I both agree, Jason, there's been decades of great things NAR has done advocating for, buyer rights in particular over the years, which is funny how this is all coming through here. But, would that change the hearts of agents if NAR were to pull that rabbit out of their hat?
Listen, that would be terrific. And I think that would help. Again, I'm rooting for their success because if they're successful, it means that our industry is going to be successful. It's just that, as we've seen over the last 8 months, there's been a loss of way, and it's never too early to do the right thing and to help the membership. And so, look, if you can structure a way to finance those costs and ease the burden, particularly for first-time buyers, that'd be great, and we'd be supportive of that.
Bobby, I see the link. I didn't even know the BAM store. I guess today's the day we're releasing the BAM store. I see the link of the BAM We Deserve Better crew neck shirts. You want to post that?
Surprise. Yeah, the link is live.
All right, the link is up. Show them the shirt.
Pull that up.
Oh, yeah.
Pull it up shortly. So, all right. Breaking news here on this breaking news segment.
Wow,
BAM is
double break.
BAM is starting a merch store. Okay. We Deserve Better crew neck shirts. By the way, BAM has incredible ideas for the industry on the merch store, but I guess today is day one of the merch store. So you're going to be able to go on there and probably break our merch store here on day one.
Whoa.
There you go. There you go. I didn't know we were releasing this today. This is news to me. So Jason, you're sharing in the news.
This was not pre-planned.
Oh my God.
We've been working on this.
I'm getting all this merch. We
Deserve Better with the B, the BAM logo. We got a whole bunch of cool stuff on the site there. Obviously the hot sheet. Yeti for those that are on the hot sheet, but go back up to the We Are Better. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there, but go back to We Are Better. I mean, that might be the shirt that everybody's looking for today. Put the link in there a couple times. We're working with a an incredible company here on our merch store. So there you go. There you go.
You better be careful. They got a thing with copyright over there. I guess
Oh, that's a B, not an R.
B. That's a B.
That's a B for BAM,
Oh,
Jason.
gosh.
Come on
that's
now.
amazing.
Come on. Hey, by the way, if NAR wanted to, you could put the link back in there, Bobby. Let's take that down.
By the way, I've missed 17 calls since we jumped on.
It's out of control. The amount of stuff that's happening today. By the way, if NAR wanted to file suit against BAM, that'd be great for business. Because
that'd be amazing. Your sales would
we'd make so much content out of that. All right. Are we getting that lender on here?
Yep. Skelly.
I'm surprised you didn't do like a Hobbit shirt. Like that would have been fun.
The Havas Marketing Group t-shirt. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, we mentioned it earlier in the stream. In 2022, the last year that we have, the most recent year that we have, the full form 990 tax document for NAR, total revenue was 328 plus million. Functional expenses to the fiscal year. Functional expenses include over 50 million to like 45 million to Havas and other marketing firms. But total functional expenses were 305 million. That left only a net income of 22 million plus for NAR. They're paying a $418 million settlement out. They've historically spent money in a whole bunch of different ways. We've got Brian Skelly. Brian Skelly is a vice president at William Ravis Mortgage. Brian Skelly, a lender, joining the conversation here. Love the BAM background there, Skelly, doing it right. Using a beautiful studio that I know well up in Connecticut. Skelly, what should agents think there's any chance that this stuff will get financed into a loan? And really the more important question is, how do you think about closing credits come mid-July if a buyer wants to wrap that into closing credits?
Yeah, I think sometimes they'll be able to, but there are limits on how much you're allowed to credit. So this is really going to be the most challenging for buyers that don't have a lot of money for down payment and closing costs, who have already been at a disadvantage for a while in this market as they're competing with people that are doing 20, 30, 40% down and cash buyers. So it's a bit of a blow to those folks. So to give you the numbers, when somebody's doing a conventional loan with less than 10% down, we have what we call interested party contributions, which as realtors know that, you just know that as a seller credit. But the seller credit has what's called, this is a Fannie Mae guideline, and Freddie Mac is the same, and they make the rules that pretty much all the banks follow. So with less than 10% down on a conventional loan, the interested party contribution limit is 3% of the price. So if you have a buyer that's doing 3% down conventional and they don't have the money for the closing costs, and they need that seller credit to cover all the regular closing costs, taxes, insurance, attorney fees, lender fees, appraisal. Sometimes they're already at, especially on a lower price home. Again, those folks are going to get hurt more because on a $200,000 house, 3% is only $6,000. So you're at typically over $6,000 in closing costs before you add in any agent commissions. So the perception that, we'll just roll it into the loan, you're not always going to be able to do that. I mean, on a higher price home or a higher down payment, you might be able to because you have higher limits, but that's basically how it works.
Essentially, the buyer would be having to make the decision to forego what they typically wrap into closing cost credits and closing costs versus buyer compensation.
Yeah. The limit is, if once you make commissions part of the buyer's closing costs instead of the seller's closing costs, then it falls under the limits, and you got to worry about that, which is unfortunate.
Does this change from loan to loan, or you're talking QM loans here?
So FHA does allow a 6% credit. So I think you will see some buyers maybe lean more towards FHA loans if they need a bigger credit, because 6% on a $200,000 house, it would be $12,000, or on a $300,000 house would be $18,000. So you do have a little bit more bandwidth, and we've seen that in the past where sometimes buyers that don't have the money for closing costs are more likely to go FHA, and I think that's what you'll see. The rules, the mortgage industry changes very slowly. It was just just like 5 years ago, we were still working on DocuSign, at a lot of banks. So, I don't think it's going to change quickly. I mean, maybe over time, the good folks at Fannie Mae will say, hey, we should, based on recent changes, we should increase the interested party contribution limits. It would be, nice to see them do that, but I'm not confident it's going to happen super quick, but it would be nice if it did.
Right. What are the limits now?
So you could Google it if you want. If you go, if you go to Google Fannie Mae interested party contribution limits, they have like a table or a chart. So it depends on if it's a primary residence or a second home or investment property, and it depends on the down payment. So like on an investment property, the interested party contribution limit is 2%. On a primary residence, it's 3% if you're doing less than 10% down or 90% LTV. And if you're doing, you got the chart there? Oh, look at that. Perfect. There it is. Zoom in right there. IPC limits. That's the chart. So when I say 10% down, see it says greater than 90% LTV, maximum interested party contribution limit, 3%. So then if you're doing 25, anywhere between 25 and 10% down, you could go up to 6%. And then if you're doing 25% down or more on a primary residence or second home, you can go up to 9%. Rarely do you ever need that. But on investment properties too, I mean, you're capped at 2%. So there's really no room at all to build in buyer agent commissions on investment property, because 2%, that's not even going to cover the closing costs before you have seller credits. I mean,
right. But for principal or second home, if you're financing 75% or less at 9%, you might be able to. Is that enough?
I mean, those are the folks that usually don't even need the credit anyways. I mean, if somebody's got 25% down, they're usually not the folks that need the help. It's usually the folks that are just, barely scraping together the 3% or the 10% that they're going to need it.
Yep.
My experience.
Yeah. Somebody asked, how does it impact pre-construction? By the Water Realty nails it with their comment. Builders win. Builders are in the winning category. I mean, this is builders have had an allergic reaction to outside agents for many years. I'm talking production builders, the Pulte's of the world. The Pulte's of the world have historically hired, a less than credible professional to cut costs, and they're clapping about this. Not just picking out Pulte because I recently bought a home from them and they were pathetic, but I'm just lumping them into all the production builders. So they're in the winners category here. It'll benefit them. Brian, anything else I think to add here on the lending side? I don't think there is, right?
I think that covers the important parts as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Okay. How about this one, Jason? Brian Skelly from William Rivers Mortgage. Thanks for joining us and jumping in there. How about this one, Jason? It's unclear to me if the seller can decide that now we know that compensation can't be offered in the MLS.
Right.
That's clear. That happens mid-July. Okay. It's unclear to me whether a seller decides inventory is going up in my market, for example, or if you look at the western coast of Florida, it's got the most inventory increase year over year than any part of the country right now. Some of the areas are above pre-pandemic. Punta Gorda is 34% above pre-pandemic levels. A seller in that market may say, wait a minute, I want to offer a buyer compensation. I want it to be fat. I want it to be juicy. I got to get this sale done. I want to do a variety of different things to get the sale done. And one of those things as the seller is I want to offer that compensation. Are they going to be able to do that?
I mean, it's up to, again, if we're allowing the free market to work here, if that's the point of this and nothing's fixed, it should be at the seller's discretion to say, I'm looking at market forces. I want to do what's best for me. So I want to incentivize the brokers to bring buyers, and this is what I'm going to do. And if that's their choice, that's their choice. That's what this all is about. It's not necessarily about lowering commissions or raising commissions. That's the point we have to emphasize. It's about that there's nothing being set, that the market is setting it. And
now, but what is clear is regardless if the seller wants that or not, it can't be listed on these portals, nor, I mean, it said, this is according again to the story that Times broke. Unfortunately, NAR hasn't really cleared this up. But in the article, it says can't be listed on websites or the MLS. Okay. So I think the websites would include all the major portals, not going to be able to advertise that in like the comments, even if a seller says, I want it advertised in the comments.
Like, we don't advertise commissions right now on the public portals anyway. But yes, so I guess the idea is that if it's blinded, that everyone will just do its best for their client. That's the theory, I guess.
There's still some unanswered questions here from NAR. Jason, final thoughts here, and we could take a couple of quick questions. I'm sure you got to jump, but
it's okay. It's really funny just watching my phone. The thing is, like, this is a red letter day. It's historic for the industry. It's not gloom and the sky isn't falling for most agents. The good ones will be okay. It's just we're gonna have to get used to this new environment. And I would just say, oh, hi, Long Island living. I'm from Jericho originally, in North Shore of Long Island, if you don't know where you're from. One of the reasons we started the American Real Estate Association was because we believe in choice and that the brokerage community should have an alternative voice if they want to be a part of it. It's free to join in 2024. We're building out an advocacy platform, an education platform, and eventually a new listing service, which we're working on still, which I think will be very exciting given the news of today. Probably now there's like that really opens the door for innovation and listing services, which I think we're going to see from this, not just from what we're working on, but across the board. And we don't have the legacy issues that have plagued the existing trade associations and state associations. So it's just something very new. People can get involved, not just get involved, they have a position of leadership. Applications are now open. We've had over, 80, 90 people apply for positions there. We're sifting through all these resumes right now and applications. If you'd like to join, you go to the website and you can sign up or actually apply very quickly for a position in leadership. Our industry is going to change a lot. I think change is good. I think it's long overdue. And I get it's uncomfortable, but that's why, like, if you listen to Byron and to BAM and what they put out, like, they'll help guide you through it. And hopefully you have a good management in your own company. That'll help as well. But the educated agent, I think, can be successful. And the non-ones, I think, can be broke.
There's going to be a lot of room for great agents to continue to serve their community. There are a number of people, myself included, just sold a home down here in Naples that do not want to go through the process without having agent representation. Even being an agent who, oversees over 500 transactions, over 700 transactions the year prior in a given year in the state of Connecticut, I don't even sell my own personal real estate because there's a lot of work. It's a service industry. The customer service needs to go through the roof. Okay. What are the things that you're right now allowing the client to do that if you were the client, you would want done for you? Because there's a lot of things, I'm like, man, I wish my agent just freaking would go ahead and do that.
Right.
Think about it this way. Okay. You're sitting at a restaurant and, they've come over, they've gotten your drinks, they've given you some sparkling water or some flat, whatever you like. And then, your cup's empty. It's like, I'm waiting for the drink, as opposed to somebody's coming over and always filling the cup up. You got your drinks on time. You have a little treat from the chef before you even consider appetizers. The level of service needs to, no matter your price point, needs to go heavy into the luxury side.
Right.
I've got that for you. I've got somebody that can handle it. Oh, instead of the, hey, hit me back up once you, figure out a painter situation. Hey, tomorrow at between 3 and 4 o'clock, I've lined up 3 painters to come over and give you quotes. I'm going to collect those quotes. We can review them together. Now, I know that's not what a lot of agents do, but that's going to be the level of service that's going to be required here going forward to validate you being at the top of this game. And there's going to be people that do that and decide to do that work. And there's many of you right here, hit the thumbs up for the great agents that are already doing that level of customer service. So to you, hey, no change. Good news is no change. I think that you have more leverage. Okay. Me and Tom Toole broke this down in real time. You can watch at Knowledge Brokers podcast later today, separate channel at Knowledge Brokers podcast. By the way, talk about education, Jason.
Yeah.
The education we've been pouring into BAMX right now. Use code settlement to get 15% off of your BAMX subscription. There's a link below. We upload new courses every single month, new live streams every single month. We have a community supporting each other. We have office hours in the community. I deliver notes every single day from the hot sheet Monday through Thursday. We have slides every single day. For those of you that are in BAMX, thank you. We're giving 15% off here today on this breaking news day settlement to get into BAMX. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to continue to educate yourself. Don't count on NAR. Don't count on your local board. I mean, in a lot of cases, your broker's not doing it. You got to get into the right environment right now. And that's why so many of you guys are in here. And I'm super appreciative to be breaking the news with you. I'll probably end up going live even over the weekend as we get more information. There are unanswered questions that persist. Is the tie-in agreement from local board to NAR going to exist? Jason thinks that that's going to be a DOJ thing, right?
Yes.
Now in the NAR email, they're saying, hey, they're trying to like get the DOJ stuff to like, hey, we've done this. Why don't you go away too? We'll see how that shakes out. There's still some unanswered questions. I'll give NAR some credit for having a detailed email that went out, albeit after New York Times broke the story. So a little bit too late. Tina, this is not an April's Fool's unless New York Times and NAR in some like big joke. Listen, NAR is not the broke agent. I don't think they could pull this off.
That would be funny.
All right. I mean, that would be funny. We know that they've got some clown makeup somewhere in DC and Chicago, but I don't think this is the case here. We're going to post the website for the American Real Estate Association, Denise. We're going to get that up there. We'll get the link into BAMX settlement code to get 15% off of that. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming. I mean, this is just the beginning here between now and mid-July of some scrambling, of some saying, cool, I've got it, of others joining, these communities like American Real Estate Association, BAMX, or both, to continue to get better every single day. And we'll continue to get more information, hopefully, as it comes out of what'll be happening. If you're on this stream, I'm pretty certain you're not one of the vulnerable ones, but there's a lot of vulnerability surrounding you in this industry. Support those folks. Some people are going to need to have a real conversation and say, is this the right business for me? Support those people, right? They've been a part of this community for a long time. Rob needs the t-shirt. We'll put the link for the merch as well. We've got the We Deserve Better. I can't believe we launched the merch store today.
What a day.
That is
what a
crazy.
day.
What a day. All right, Jason, thanks for jumping on here today. Man. Thanks everybody for joining in. Jason, keep the text lines open. Let me know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted as I hear. There's more coming.
All right. Thanks, guys.